Hello and welcome to this second quiz about joins. I'm Philip Burton of idodata.com. So this quiz is intended for somebody who is starting out on their SQL journey, who has learnt the select, from and where clauses. So in the previous quiz, we had a look at the various types of joins. And if you are new to joins, first of all, there is a link above to my video about joins. But secondly, don't watch this video until you've watched my previous video, which is all about the different types of joins, because now I assume that you're very familiar with all of these different types. So these questions are going to be at a harder level than the previous quiz. So let's have a start. So I want to have a look at tblPurchases and tblCustomers. So can we create a join between them? So I put tblPurchases first. It doesn't really matter which way you go. You might have to change whether it's a left join or right join later on. So I'll put an alias and I will join it to tblCustomers. What's next? We covered this in the previous quiz, the word on. And what is the field or column that joins the two together? It's CustomerID. So how many rows will this produce? Just pause the video if you need to and have a look at the data. The answer is 2, because there are 2 customer IDs in common with each. Now the next question. How can I find out which customer in tblCustomer has not made a purchase? So this one's a bit more tricky. So you can see that it's going to be customer ID C0003. This customer has not made a purchase. Now this does not get shown in an inner join. So therefore we have to use one of the other joins. So based on what we've got here, tblPurchases first and tblCustomers second, what sort of join do I use? And I could use a right join, or I could use a full join. So let's have a look at the difference between the two. Here is a right join, and here you'll see all of the various customer IDs, including C0003. Or I could use a full join, which in this particular instance would give me the same answer because there aren't any purchasers who don't have customers. So either is fine. I would typically use a right join in this situation. I generally use inner joins if I want matches in both tables, left or right joins if I want matches in one table, and full joins if I don't mind whether there are matches in table A or table B. It could be in either. So having run this gives me all of the customer IDs. And yes, I can look down and see, okay, it's this one who hasn't got a purchase. But how do I write a query which just shows this one particular customer? And there is a big clue on the screen in yellow background, the word null. So this is when I use the where clause. Where, can you write the rest of it? p.customerID and then is null. So don't say equals null, that will not work. If I say equals null, I get 0 rows. I have to use is null. So that gets me customer ID C0003 and it detects the nulls. Now, why do I say customer ID null or is null and not shop ID is null? Is there any particular reason? Well, let's say that there was another purchase and I know what shop it was in. It was in shop number 4. I don't know the customer, but I know the amount. If I said shop ID is null, then it wouldn't show me that missing row. Whereas if I say customer ID, I am fairly sure that it will come up. Now, of course, what you should do, and this is going beyond joins, is to make sure that there is a primary key in tblPurchases of both these rows. So neither of them would be able to be null. If you're sure of that, then yes, you could use shop ID, but it's more traditional to use the one that you join. So now let's go back to our table shops and table purchases. So I'm going to do a join here. Don't know what sort of join yet. I'll put the on because it uses the shop ID. And that gets me just the one row. If I change this to a full join, then this gets me 3 rows. And you can see that there are some problems. There are some shops with no purchases, and there are some purchases with no shops. How can I write a query that will get both these situations? So in other words, where there is a shop with no purchases, or where there are purchases and no shop. I can use the where clause again. So where ShopID is null, so that will get me this row, but how can I get both? I can say, or the purchase table ShopID is null. So the full joiner gives me both of the tables regardless of whether there is only a join in one table or the other table or both. And this now says, okay, where is it null in either? So that uses the where clause and an or. Next question. How do I create a query which joins together table shops, table purchases, and table customers? And you can use the full join in this. Well, I stick to what I've got. Here is my full join with 2 tables, and then I just continue it. So full join table customers as C on, and then make sure you get the 2 tables correct in the on. So because this links table purchases with table customers, it is p.CustomerID equals c.CustomerID. There is no shop ID in table customers. Customers can go to more than one shop if they wish to do so. So if I run this, there we can see the full combination of shops, purchases, and customers. So to interpret this, we have a shop 2 in Boston where there are no purchases, no customers. We have a shop 3, but we don't know where that shop is, but we do have a customer. And then we have one more customer who has not bought anything. So you can see this shows quite a few things which are a bit of an anomaly, and you'd probably want these queries to find these anomalies and then cure them. However, suppose I didn't want to do that in this particular case. I wanted both my shops in New York and Boston and whatever customers they have. How can I write that? Well, we have a difficulty here. Table shops is not directly linked to table customers. There is no line between them. So there is this third table in between, table purchases. So what I need is to have this. However, I just want the 2 shops and not all of this. So I could say where shop ID is not null, so where there is a valid shop. So that gives me both the shops and any valid data that we've got. However, that's not the traditional way that we do this. What sort of join would get me everything from table shops and then everything from the other 2 where there is valid data? And the answer is a left join or a right join depending on where you're going from. So I'm going from table shops, it's the first one that's mentioned, and that gives me a left join from table shops to table purchases. But you can see it doesn't give me quite the right answer because we've then got this full join. So because this now has an arrow essentially, so if I format the shape and we add an arrow onto this, it's going from table shops to table purchases, then we need another arrow to go from table purchases to table customers in the same direction. So we add another left join. So it's a left join because the item on the left goes first and then is equal to the item on the right. So that will give us both our shops and anything that's relevant. Now, what if I wanted to reverse this? So I want this arrows to go the opposite direction. What's the minimal change that I would need to do? So what would this give me? It would give me all customers and any purchases that they've made. And that is just a right join. So it gives me all of the customers and any purchases. Now, I typically would not use a right join for this. I would probably start afresh and say, okay, here is my customers. And then I would do a left join into tblPurchases. And make sure you list the tblCustomers one first. And then I would do another left join into tblShops. Now this gives me the same results, but I generally prefer to go from the one which has the full data that we want to include and then work my way down the chain. So both of these give me exactly the same results. Yes, the column order is different, but I can change that in the select statement. It just gives it to me in a cosmetically different way. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quiz, and I hope you're getting to grips with the join. Now, if I can help you further, then I hope you consider looking at my Udemy courses. So I've got 3 Udemy courses, and it depends how much time you've got available. If you've just got an hour, then please have a look at my SQL Server Essentials in an Hour, where I go through this select statement with the 6 principal clauses: select from where, group by, having, and order by. If you've got more time, then in 9 hours, we go further. We look at inserting, updating, deleting, backup and restores, as well as creating things like views and procedures. And then if you really want to go into depth, then I've got my around 30-hour course, which goes into more depth in these topics, more quizzes, and more topics. So if you like this video, then please click the like button, and why not subscribe and click that bell? That way you'll be notified of any new videos. Thank you very much for watching this, and keep learning.